Oppenheimer is officially ineligible for visual effects in the Oscars this year because apparently the Academy thinks that this looks better than this. And also, I'll be going over the National Board of Review winners and their top 10 films of the year, plus the AFI top 10 films of the year, and see what crossover there is and what that means for Best Picture in this episode of Awards Roundup. Welcome to episode 2 of Awards Roundup. This episode, like I said, I'll be going over the 20 visual effects finalists for the Academy Awards and the AFI and National Board of Review winners. The Independent Spirit Award nominations came out, but I'm going to do that on a separate video because I think it merits that. So, welcome to episode 2 of Awards Roundup. Episode 3 will be later this week. I planned on cramming it all together, but there's a lot of stuff this week, so I figured I'd break it apart a little bit. So we're going to start off with the visual effects short list, although it's technically a long list because this list of 20 films gets narrowed down to 10 films, which is the short list that the 5 nominees are taken from. So we'll have an even better picture once the actual short list come out, which, once again, will be a video of its own later on. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I am Derek, the convicted cinephile. I like to do award season guff, obviously, but I also talk, shop, and pop open, that is, movies and physical media, as I say, where I do movie hauls, pickups, unboxings, things of that sort, but this time of year, it's all about the award season. First, we'll go through the 20 visual effects finalists for the Academy Awards this year, and like I said in the opening, Oppenheimer, semi-shockingly, is not one of them. I didn't personally expect Oppenheimer to get nominated for visual effects. Out of the close to dozen categories I think it has a chance of getting into, visual effects was always at the bottom because there is no CGI in the movie, according to Mr. Nolan. I'm sure there's touch-up things here and there, but the explosion itself and all that was all done practically, which apparently they don't consider to be visual effects anymore because that's way more impressive than basically everything on this final 20 list, which is mostly CGI garbage fests, in my opinion. Some of them are better than others. So let's get into them in alphabetical order. The final 20 that could be nominated for visual effects are Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, which was like a joke how bad the visual effects were when that movie came out. I don't think they were as bad as people were making them out to be. There's a lot of them. It's a little mucky at sometimes. There's some hilarious looking visual effects in it, but they're made to be funny in some situations, so it didn't bother me as much as others. It's a lot of visual effects. That's what this category seems to be this year, is most visual effects as opposed to best visual effects. Usually in the end, they pick the better winner in the category. I'm always kind of surprised and proud of the Academy when they pick things like First Man in 1917 over the more expected winners like Infinity War and Endgame and things like that. Although I would love a Marvel movie to finally win visual effects, and I think we're past the time where that was going to happen now, sadly. But hey, they're still making these long lists. So like I said, Ant-Man is on there, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is on there, and I will note that The Little Mermaid is not, so the superior floating hair underwater visual effects movie may get nominated. Barbie is on there, so the Barben half of Barbenheimer, that's an inspired choice because there's interesting visual effects. It doesn't necessarily look real, which is fine in some cases, but it's unique and it fits the film very well. The Boys in the Boat, which for those of you who don't even know what that is a George Clooney film that's coming out. I actually saw the trailer for this in theaters the other week, and it looks pretty decent. It's about a rowing crew at a college back in the day. And I'm guessing there's a lot of CGI water involved, and that's how it made this final list. The Creator, which I haven't seen yet. I have a digital copy of it shared on my buddy and I have a Vudu account that we share. So Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves, which I'm a fan of that movie. I'm happy to see that on here. It has interesting, if not perfect, visual effects yet again. Godzilla -1 made the list, which is cool. The visual effects on that, to me, aren't amazing from what I've seen. I haven't watched the actual movie, but the trailers and everything I've seen, they look good, but not great. But considering its budget, which was like $15 million or something like that, it looks outstanding. So, given that, I think they did an amazing job. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is probably the only superhero movie this year that I would say deserves to make the nominees that I've seen, at least. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, so basically everything that Disney made, except for Little Mermaid, is on here. Most of the visual effects in Indiana Jones are pretty good. There's a lot of like cringeworthy de-aging moments. It's the case where like if he doesn't move, it looks great, but as soon as he starts talking and moving, it looks weird and uncanny valley. But they're getting there. Keep going. Killers of the Flower Moon. So there is your best picture nominee in the visual effects category that could sneak in there and win. Now that Oppenheimer is not in there. Cool to see a movie like that in here though. Like that's a good shortlist. The Marvels made it on there. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 made it on there. That is good. Napoleon made it on there. That does look visually impressive, if anything else. Nyad, the Netflix movie with Annette Bening. That is on Netflix if you don't know that. She's potentially getting it for Best Actress and Jodie Foster for Supporting Actress. I went over that in other videos. Once again, movie with lots of fake water is my guessing. Poor Things, another what seems to be Best Picture guarantee nomination in there. This movie looks visually enchanting, for the lack of a better word off the top of my head. So that I hope gets in, and if it does get in for Best Picture, that only helps its chances to get into other categories like this. Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, which I think is that Zack Snyder movie I completely forgot existed, and I also didn't even realize it was coming out this year, if it isn't out already. Is that coming out like on Christmas or something? Let me know in the comments. I'm not a huge Zack Snyder fan, so I could care less. If I hear it's good, I'll watch it, but eh. Society of the Snow, another Netflix movie that I have not heard of yet. I'll look into this. Apparently Netflix was, for these shortlist name checks here. All right, this is my favorite out of all of them. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is an inspired choice. Any animated movie to make it into a category like this is always awesome. There have been animated films and visual effects in the past. Kubo and the Two Strings, I believe, was nominated. If it wasn't, it was shortlisted. And Nightmare Before Christmas was nominated for visual effects, if I remembering correctly. So I really hope Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse makes it in there, because that movie, more so than anything else on this list that I've seen, is the most visually striking. And then we have our robots movie, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. I don't remember if any of them passed the first couple Transformers actually made it into this category, but it makes sense why it's there. And last but not least, Wonka, I guess. It's in the 20 finalists. This movie just looks horrible. I'm sorry. For visual effects, I understand there's a lot of visual effects that go into it. I watched the trailer. It looks terrible. Like I said, Timothy Chalamet looks okay in the part, but very underwhelming. I can't tell what he's trying to do. He's like half Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka, and half Gene Wilder, and nobody should try to be anything Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka ever again. So maybe it'll be better than it looks. Let's hope for that. But those are the 20 finalists for the Visual Effects Academy Awards this year. Obviously, like I said, when the shortlist come out, we'll have our final 10 and then our final 5 on nomination morning. I mean, like, it makes sense what's here, but it's not like super exciting to me. I usually love the visual effects category, and unless they pick like the perfect 5 out of these 20, there's a chance I could care diddly crap about this category come Oscars time. Hopefully they get the good movies in there, like Killers of the Flower Moon and Spider-Man and Poor Things, the more interesting choices, not the super cartoony looking ones like Ant-Man. Like those, they're all the same. You know, there's nothing super special about them or unique or groundbreaking. There's the word. But at least we can all be happy that The Flash isn't here. All right, next I'm going to do the NBR winners, the National Board of Review winners review. I don't know why the word review is weird to say sometimes. But they have specific categories and a top 10 list, unlike the AFI, which is just going to be the top 10 list. And I'm just going to go from top to bottom on the page here. I have read these, but I don't have them like memorized. Best film went to Killers of the Flower Moon. So congratulations to them. That movie's already doing well. And it also went to Martin Scorsese for Best Director as well. So there's a notch for Mr. Scorsese. No Christopher Nolan here for Oppenheimer, but I'm sure he was number 2 or close to it if he wasn't. Best Actor went to Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. I saw The Holdovers since my last video, and it's great. And I love Paul Giamatti in everything I've seen him in. And if he should at least get nominated this year for Best Actor, especially after getting snubbed for Sideways almost 20 years ago. Yeah, it'd be a shame if he didn't make it in yet again for another great Alexander Payne movie. Best Actress is yet again Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Shows she has essentially swept everything so far that I've looked at. sort of including the win she had for the Gothams that wasn't for this movie, but we all know it was probably for this movie. Best Supporting Actor went to Mark Ruffalo, which I love. For Poor Things, I've heard nothing but him being hilarious in this movie, and it would be great to see, an Iron Man Hulk battle of supporting actor at the Oscars with Little Green Goblin thrown in there for fun. And I've always loved Mark Ruffalo. Everything he's ever been in, I've really liked him in. Like, he's one of those actors who I didn't really know, but he always captivated me and stuff, even when he was like just breaking on the scene, like in stuff like Collateral, which I honestly forget he's even in until I watch it again. I'm like, oh, holy shit. He was in everything that year. He was in Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind the same year. Stuff like Zodiac, which is my favorite David Fincher movie, goes on and on and on. Foxcatcher, whole bunch of great stuff he's in. And this will be his fourth supporting actor nomination, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, which is funny. They never give him a lead role in anything, apparently, but he can support the hell out of a movie. Best Supporting Actress went to Divine Joy Randolph from The Holdovers again. She's fantastic in this movie, just like I expected. I don't know if she'll end up winning at the Oscars, but if she did, I wouldn't complain. Let's put it that way. Best Original Screenplay went to David Hemmingson for The Holdovers yet again. There's no way in hell this doesn't get nominated for screenplay at the Oscars. Best Adapted Screenplay went to Poor Things, written by Tony McNamara. So there's our two, front runners for screenplay so far, based on little to no information whatsoever, but they are two that I do expect to get in regardless. Best Directing Debut went to Celine Song for Past Lives yet again. So her movie's not really winning Best Picture, or she's not really winning Best Director anywhere, but she seems to be sweeping these Breakthrough Director Awards, which might be enough to at least get her film in to Best Picture contention, even if she doesn't quite make the Best Director list at the end of the year. Best Breakthrough Performance went to Tiana Taylor for 1001. I've heard nothing but great things about this as well. Best Animated Feature, not surprisingly, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which, if it doesn't win at the Oscars, I'd be amazed. I won't be surprised if it misses Best Picture, mainly because it's a part one. So maybe they'll Return of the King the hell out of it and it'll win Best Picture the third time around. That's not going to happen. Best International Film, the trend continues. Anatomy of a Fall makes it in there as the winner. This film is not eligible, though, for the foreign film, or international film, they changed the name of it a couple years ago, Academy Award, because it's not that country's submission. Each country can only submit one movie, which is really stupid. Like, I understand they don't want one country to submit, 100 movies, but maybe, 2 or 3? Kind of narrow down from there, I guess. But since Anatomy of a Fall can't win international feature, that might actually only help it get into Best Picture after all these wins and rave reviews I've been hearing. Best Documentary went to Still, a Michael J. Fox story, which I still have to see. But I love Michael J. Fox. I will watch anything with him or about him, and he's just an American treasure at this point. And he always has been, really. Even 40 years ago, who didn't love Michael J. Fox? Everyone's least favorite person, like Ricky Gervais said once on the Golden Globes, and I still fucking laugh at that joke. The Best Ensemble winner was a pleasant surprise to me. That went to The Iron Claw, the A24 film, which I really want to see because I love professional wrestling. I just grew up with it. I don't watch it constantly anymore, but I'll still go to shows. I went to one a couple weeks ago to AEW just for shits and gigs, but I still have an old school love of the sport and the entertainment side of it. So seeing a good wrestling movie is always fun for me, and they always hit hard because so many of those stories are tragic, and it does not get much more tragic than The Iron Claw. So if you want a fun family evening, don't go see The Iron Claw, but if you want to see a very interesting but sad family story, it's a great one, and I cannot wait to see that. I'm very happy to see it making it on some of these lists already. The National Board of Review Icon winner went to Bradley Cooper for his new film Maestro. Not even specifically for Maestro, it just went to Bradley Cooper, but, it makes sense. Best Cinematography went to Rodrigo Prieto for both Barbies and Killers of the Flower Moon, so I assume he shot both films, which I had no idea, and that's some talent, because they both look great, and they both look very different. If only he shot Oppenheimer, that would have been better. And they do have a Best Stunt category, which is great, and that went to John Wick Chapter 4. So that is neat. I would love... The Oscars needs to make a stunt award. I say that every year. But now on to the top 10 films in alphabetical order from NBR. They went to Barbie, The Boy and the Heron, Ferrari, which shocked me that that's on there because I haven't heard anything about that yet. That's a Michael Mann film starring Adam Driver, which I'm sure it's good, but I'm just It came out of nowhere on here. The Holdovers, not surprisingly, after all the wins it had right above there. The Iron Claw made it into the top 10, so that made me very excited. Maestro is on there. Oppenheimer is on there. Past Lives is on there. And Poor Things. So nothing's missing that I'm like, oh my god. Because Killers of the Flower Moon isn't on here because that won. So that is the other one because these are 9 movies and Killers was the 10th. So there's nothing missing here that totally blows my mind at the moment. I'm sure it'll click in half an hour. But I like what I see. Let's put it that way. Ferrari is definitely the one. And The Boy and the Heron making it on there instead of Spider-Man is kind of weird. Let's just move straight into the AFI top 10 pictures of the year, alphabetically yet again. We have American Fiction, which is one I'm excited about, and that's another one that's definitely going to get in for best screenplay. That's like the Holdovers' biggest competition from what I've heard so far. We have Barbie, and again, we have the Holdovers again, Killers of the Flower Moon again, Maestro again, May December, which is one that I'm not super surprised is missing from the other one, but I'm not surprised it hit one or the two. Oppenheimer, Past Lives again, Poor Things again, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse made it on here. What does this mean for Best Picture? Usually, you can kind of take these lists, these top 10 lists, and like about 7 or 8 of them usually end up making it into Best Picture at the Oscars now that there's 10 nominees. And if we look at the crossover here, we have Barbie, Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Past Lives. So there's your 7. Is that 7? Yeah. It's weird because I'm looking at the opposite hands in the screen. It was very off-putting for a minute. I was like, what's wrong with my hands? That's right on track. Like, seriously, like, those are literally what would probably be my top 7 Oscar guesses. Past Lives would probably be number 7 of those 7. But the other 6 are like these 6 that I absolutely have no doubt are going to get in to the Best Picture category. The only thing that I just thought of that's missing off both of these lists is Color Purple, which I've heard is good, but it might have just come out a little too late for these two groups to have voted on it because it just debuted like last weekend. Sometimes it's just bad timing. Sometimes it's just they didn't get the SAG screeners out in time. Crap like that. Right there. Like, honestly, there's 7 Best Picture nominees I will absolutely have from here on out if I don't already have them on there. And the other ones, the other 3 spots would probably come out of somewhere on these lists. I think Anatomy of a Fall is going to be one of them because that can't be on the American film list because it's not American. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say in this episode. I just like this crap and I like to make fun of bad special effects. Please go check out my first episode where I went over the British Independent Film Awards, the Gotham Awards, and the New York Film Critics Awards. The next episode of this will have stuff like the LA Film Critics and a few other film critics associations from around the country. And then I will do a Independent Spirit Awards reaction video separately because those also came out a day or two ago. I would have done this sooner, but I've been under the weather. On that note, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Talk, shop, pop, movies.